Beestonian blog and do the Beestonian magazine. You might have seen knocking around Beeston. We've got a newer shot today, by the way, so just plug that for you. I called this meeting after several pieces I wrote regarding Beeston. Square received an unprecedented response, probably from quite a few people here, who feel that they would like a great say in matters. A lot of people felt alienated, felt out of the loop, didn't see that they were being involved in the process. Created a lot of debate, so I decided that the best thing to do was call a public meeting, get the key players in the development of Beeston Square here together and let them put their case to you, and also let you ask them some questions. So Beeston's been around a real centre now for about a decade. Now it looks like we have a plan on the table to finally see work done to attract businesses back to the square. If all goes to plan, I think it's 18 months. That's the plan to incorporate all land from BMN bargains right back to Argos on one side and peacocks and birds on the other side. The whole precinct, the whole shopping unit there. While most people are grateful we have some work carried out on the site, so a few commented regarding what they see as a lack of ambition. Is this more of a facelift rather than a thorough redevelopment? I think more maybe a lot of people were expecting a real thorough redevelopment. There's also concern about the area to the immediate south of the square, the area of a multi-storey car park and the fire station at Winston. There's still no plans to these, and this is, to me, quite a worrying factor, really. We're still looking at this and asking the council, asking developers, what is going to happen with that? Are we going to sit there with an empty space for ages, like we did with Tesco's, as you may remember, sort of thing, or are we going to have some sort of joined-up development? We don't want the Henry to do the work on the square, then in a few years' time, one thing comes in and we say we have to knock that down to make it fit again with what's planned for the rest of the area there. It has become apparent that there have been a few rifts between the two bodies that have most power over the future of the square, namely Broxtowe Council and the square's leasehold for the next 8 to 9 years anyway. A Broxtowe Council who withdrew from attending tonight due to a unforeseen diary clash went as far as to publicly say that he regretted today the council ever got into bed with Henry Boo, which is pretty strong words really. Henry Boo had in response pointed out that these plans for development have been met with prevarication, lack of clear information, such as the tram issue, and demoralising lack of support and enthusiasm. We have a situation, therefore, that threatens to slip into a crisis. We have a tram ride in a few years, and if we have a town people want to travel to, then it may prove to be a great bonus to the town and local businesses. If not, then it may be seen as a way to go and shop elsewhere, or drive people out rather than pull them in. However, this debate is not about the tram. I must stress that first off. While it's impossible to totally ignore the tram in any debate in Beeston at the moment, about anything, if we just keep the discussion on the subject at hand rather than the pros and cons of NET, that would help a lot. Beeston seems to have been thrown into the air at the moment, and rarely how it lands will determine so much. Are we to have a future reserve or a slow decay? And I grew up in Stapleford, so I've seen what happens to towns when bad town planning comes into it. We've got Steve Barber here tonight, councillor for Rylands, who's been fairly outspoken on the square issue for some time, frequently taking issue with Henry Booth on issues of redevelopment. I've also got John Blaine here from Broxtowe Borough Council. He's the head of built environment there, so great insight into it. And on my far right here, we've got James Greenway, director of Henry Boots, who's also here. So, like to kick off there. Great.
Yeah. Thanks for everybody coming tonight. It's really important to us to get so much feedback. We bought the centre back in 2003 with the intention of developing out very quickly, pretty much similar to what we're proposing at the minute. Just as we're about to get started, the net kit scheme came along, and it's been impossible for us as developers to design anything, not knowing whether the tram's happening, not happening, and it's only following this afternoon that we're probably getting the final designs for the tram route as of sort of next week on Tuesday. I won't bore you with the history between us and the council. There's never been a falling out between us and the council, just put that to bed. There has been a big disagreement between ourselves and the advisors who act for the council on various issues, but we are where we are. And what we're desperate to do is avoid the decline in the centre. The net proposals have really damaged the current centre, lots of vacancies, and once you've got 1 or 2 vacant, that just spills out, people get lots of work. So our proposals are basically to try and stop that decline and get something better for Beeston.
Steve,
yeah, sure. First of all, I'm Chair of Development Control in Beeston on Roxton Borough Council, so I really can't comment on the specifics because that will be for the Development Control Committee meeting when it comes to us. So I can comment on the general. First thing, it has been a nightmare the last few years. We've got real ambition for Beeston. I'm an ambitious person. I come from Manchester. And I was brought up next to Moss Side and Salford Docks, and to see Salford Quays transformed during my lifetime in the way it has transformed, Moss Side and Hume, is a real inspiration. And on a magnetism of that, it's what I want to see in Beeston, a transformation. I've always wanted to see a big retailer in Beeston Square. We're going to get an extra 4 to 5 million passenger journeys a year through Beeston. It comes slap through the middle of Beeston, the tram, deliberately, and that's our shop window. People will, people say, well, you won't get people off the tram on the way into town. No, you probably won't. You know, who stops on the way into town? On the way to work. On the way out of town, though, when they're going home, that's when people stop for a meal. They stop to browse. They stop to walk round. I believe, I see Simon Barton here, and I believe Beeston's got a great, thriving future as a music venue. The Oxjam event was fantastic last year, and Simon Barton's really entered the spirit of it at the other end of Chilwell Road. Any town has to have nodal points, it has to have points of focus and a route between. We've got that in Beeston. We've got a tram coming which will go through the square, something big, something really ambitious to pull people off the tram. Chilwell Road, great independent retailers, cafe culture, bike shop, bed shop, every type of shop up there. Far end, you've got a development there, which is a venue which is really moving and becoming an attraction. And hopefully that gets regularised and we can have a music attraction up by the college. Back on the tram, back home. Dead easy. Lots of money, lots of people coming in. And that's where I'm disappointed with the square proposal that I've seen, is because it really, would you get off a tram to look at what was proposed? I'm not sure I would. I'm not sure I'd bother. Probably stay on the tram, go home, watch the telly. But I'm just hoping that we can find something a bit more exciting. We talked about the fire station multi-storey car park. That is owned by Broxtowe. Currently occupied by Net. Net draw a red line around the areas they're occupying, including a bit of my garden. They occupy that, and then they may or may not give it up at the end of construction. We don't know if they're going to give it up. So we can't sign a lease to an exciting retailer or any retailer or anyone else on a piece of land that is occupied by Net, and we don't know if they're going to give it up. They've been very slow at Net at getting the details out. I'm really pleased to hear James say that they are meeting today and the proposals are coming forward at last. We're a year into the project. I think things should have gone a bit faster, and I really hope they would have. But we are where we are. Let's move on from here, and let's hope that these proposals bring us something concrete, and let's hope that we can really move forward with the whole thing. So those are my thoughts. Not commenting on the specific application in front of us. I'd be very interested to hear what everyone else has to say.
Thank you. I haven't really got much more to add to what's been said already. Just to say, I represent the estate side of Broxtowe Borough Council, not the planning side. I apologise that there isn't a planner here tonight, but if there was, they wouldn't be able to comment in detail on the planning application until it was received, and then obviously officers have to consider it. As an officer, I can't be as outspoken as members, so I'll keep my comments to elected members. So I'll keep my comments just to the facts as they are, which was we have been in negotiation with Henry Boot for a number of years over the entire town centre site, by which I mean the multi-storey, the bus station, the fire station, and the existing square. But as has already been pointed out, the tram is under construction. Actually, I shouldn't say it's under construction, it's still under design 1 year into its contract. It's a design and build contract. And actually, for a £560 million scheme, it appears to have been tendered on a series of A3 sketches. and they're 1 year into it. They're only just coming up with the final design. They have occupation of the multi-storey car park and the fire station, so even though they are owned by the Borough Council, at the moment we have no say over what happens over those sites until potentially 6 months after the opening of the tram. So it could be as late as 2015 before Broxtowe Borough Council regains control of those sites. As you'll appreciate, any development partner, whether that be Henry Boots or another partner, cannot put forward detailed proposals until they actually know when they're getting the site and how big the site might be, what the constraints might be, what the access might be. And these are all things that the tram is a mixed blessing. Personally, I'm in favour of it. The official position of the Borough Council was the Borough Council was broadly in favour of the tram, but recognised it would have serious adverse impacts in a number of areas and therefore lodged a number of objections to the tram. I think long term the tram will bring significant benefits to Beeston. It does have limitations on the town centre redevelopment site, whether that's actually taking land off the site or restricting vehicular access to the site. I think our view most probably is that there isn't going to be a comprehensive town centre redevelopment that can come forward probably for at least 2 years, because that's the length of time that the tram at least will have possession of that site in the town centre. Therefore, understandably, from Henry Boots' perspective, what they're seeking to do is to improve what's there, and the planning section of Broxtowe Borough Council will consider that application on its merits. And obviously, you will all be part of the process, and you're welcome to make comments to our plans. I think long term we do want to see a significant redevelopment of the town centre, but for the reasons I've explained, that can't come straight away. And I think developer interest, whether that be Henry Boots or another developer, will significantly increase as the tram actually takes shape. I think the best will in the world, although the contract's signed and although considerable work's underway, I think we will all have more confidence that the tram is actually coming when we start to see rails appearing, when we start to see real construction on the ground. That will help Henry Boots attract tenants or another potential developer to be interested in the site. Thank you.
Right then, if anyone wants to ask a question to the panel, please put your hand up now.
Can you just clarify, in the scheme at the back, are you relating to referring just to the fire station part of the entire site? You're saying you can't even begin to consider what we may be able to do with that site, just because of a small corner.
The tram is currently in possession, legal possession of the fire station, the former multi-storey car park site, the bus station. The tram is in possession of the entire site, with the exception of a small corner which was purchased or is being purchased privately by the City Council from a private owner. Broxtowe owns probably 90% of that site, has access to none of that site at present.
Just because you don't have access to it doesn't mean that you can't sort of envisage a plan, so what you possibly do is try and tie the two schemes together somehow and propose some sort of comprehensive development rather than say we can't do it for 2 years just because of a corner plot of land that may or may not sort of come back to you.
The Borough Council is never going to develop the site itself. It will need a development partner to do that. The development partner needs the security of knowing what land is available, when it will be available and how it can be accessed.
Any questions? Just a few questions that I've received. Oh, sorry.
Just a question in the short term. Given that the long term is impossible to foresee at the moment, what is the scope for short term, invitations by the council or by Henry Boots or whatever, things like pop-up shops, to just keep a bit of life going rather than the whole thing be moribund for 2 years, 3 years, 4 years? Is there anything of that sort that might be envisaged?
We can do short-term leases on all working units, except for the ones that are controlled by the tram. As John said, the tram actually have a temporary possession order on the entire mall, running from the top where QS is down to B&M. They also have got every unit from the Yorkshire Road down to the bus station and Wilco's.
That's virtually everything, isn't it, really?
So everything the other side of that, we can do short-term leases on, where the shop mobility is and things like that.
Yeah.
Everything else is the tram, that will be demolished.
2 months' time? 3 months' time?
Ish. Yeah. We're in the tram's hands at the minute, and You know, when we first did it back in April, when they made the order to take the land, we expected 10 to 12 weeks to be demolished, so still sat here nearly a year later and it's not been demolished.
So Wilco's could have stayed open for another year then?
Yeah.
And some Gordon Road.
Well, myself, Malcolm staying at the council, and Wilkinson's actually went to meet the tram, crikey, 2010. And we came with a plan which was basically to lay the tracks to the back door of Wilco's and out the front, and we would move them across the other side of the mill. But Net turned that down, and then Wilkinson's walked away from it. So we did try.
Yeah. Well, I must say I'm extremely disappointed from what I've heard so far. I've heard there was going to be a bit of buck passing between Henry Boot and the council, and suddenly it seems to be buck passing to Net as well. I'm sure there's going to be a bit of leadership here. Why isn't the leader of the council here? Needs to get together, Net, Henry Boot and the council, and sort it out. I'm waiting another 4 years, 3 or 4 years before we do something.
And essentially that was part of the meeting that was held today, which both myself and James were at with the tram. I mean, they are significantly behind in their design process, I would say. Some of that, I mean, it's like if you were trying to sell your house, but you didn't know how much of your house you were going to have, or when you were going to have it, you can't get a proper price for your property until you know actually how big your house is going to be and when it's going to be available to you. And that's the issue that we have with that development site, which is why it's absolutely essential that we get the tram to actually agree a detailed design with us, with Henry Boot, get that design finalised, and then release the land for development.
Can I just speed it up?
We have no power or control. They have statutory powers, parliamentary powers. They have the absolute right to build the tram. They have the absolute right to take the land that they need. We can't overrule that. It's parliamentary powers.
This is not democracy then, is it? Really? We're all sat here and there's absolutely nothing we can do about anything.
And basically nothing's going to happen for a couple of years. Can I just ask, you've obviously got the development side, it's owned by Henry Boot, which referred to as a shopping centre. I think a lot of people probably feel the way I do, and I think of it as Beeston Centre. I don't see it like a shopping centre as such. And because of that, I was really upset to see that there weren't any plans at all in terms of the public realm. That was remaining exactly the same. And there doesn't seem to be any comprehensive plan about what the centre of Beeston is going to look like. And it's the only place that Beeston has, that square area, where people can congregate. And there's been fairly disastrous fireworks displays and everything in the past because it's not fit for purpose. Does the council have any plans to fix the public realm and make it fit for purpose?
Currently, I mean, Broxton Council, we did have a master plan drawn up, about 3 or 4 years ago. And this was not the be-all and end-all, it was the start really, it was the start of negotiation. It's a great shame that master plan didn't go forward. I mean, the thing that, when this master plan was drawn up, we had lived in different economic times. I mean, we all accept that. You know, that things were very different. I mean, we were talking about big retailers. I remember a cinema being mentioned. I remember a market. There was all sorts of things mentioned. James and I ran through it to Reverend Nick Palmer's office. You know, various ideas. Then the council got together, set up a committee and drew together a master plan, which tried to pull all these threads together. Sadly, everything suddenly collapsed in 2010. It all just fell into a heap, and that was worldwide recession. We find firms, in big international household name firms, of which we were hoping one would come to Beeston, weren't building anywhere. Simple as that. They wouldn't come to Beeston because they weren't going anywhere. And we're picking up the pieces from that really at the moment, I'm sorry to say.
Are there any plans for developing a public realm?
At the moment, short answer is no.
We're open to look at it. I mean, we roughly, we own about 20% of the square, and Brox own the other 80%. We're quite open to ideas really.
But the feedback I got when I went to the library was very much, this is the boundary, that's the council's, it's not ours, so I've got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we can't touch what they own, we're not allowed to do that, but you know, we will look at proposals where we can and try and tie it in.
I think it'd be fair to
Can
say
you not
that...
work a little bit together? You know, you're sitting symbolically at the opposite end of this table. Surely there's, you know, you seem to be good friends.
No, we will do. I mean, Broxton is the determining authority for the plan application. They're our freeholder, so we apportion rent every single year. So we do work closely together. It's just I suppose we've got to come up with a plan for the square.
Another one of the subjects that we were discussing with the tram this afternoon was obviously, you'll be aware of the public realm that we've sought to bring along Broadgate, along into the High Road, then into Tesco's, and we're asking the tram to do that as part of their works. They have quite a range of public realm works that they need to do as part of their interchange. They haven't agreed to that yet. They've come up with a different proposal. Henry Boot will also submit proposals as part of their planning application. What we are trying to do is to coordinate the activity of Henry Boot and NET to match the public realm that's already been undertaken from Broadgate as far as Tesco's. But those are subject to planning processes. I can't predict or guarantee the outcome from those planning processes. In terms of the rest of the square, I mean, you'd probably be aware of the financial climate in which councils are operating at the moment. We have no capital receipts at the moment. Our capital programme is significantly reduced. External funding has largely dried up. There isn't the money sitting there waiting to be spent on the public realm. So we rely on developers such as Henry Boot or Tram, and we just have to edge the process along gradually as and when opportunities arise.
John, may I ask a question? And are you receiving income from the fire station site and from the multi-storey car park site from the tram?
That's a commercially privileged question, but the answer is zero.
Well, I mean, the investment that Broxton as a council has got there is probably in the order of £2 million, and I would expect for your council to have defended your ratepayers' position by rightly demanding an income from the tram for that land.
Again, we can't go into commercial details. Myself on behalf of the Borough Council and James on behalf of Henry Boot, we both have significant claims in against NET at the moment.
Yeah.
Those claims have been submitted.
So in principle you should be receiving an income?
In principle, yes.
And
that process.
And you will work to receive that?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Oh, absolutely. We're talking significant
Well,
sums. We're talking potentially 6- and 7-figure sums.
That's precisely the point I'm making.
Yeah.
That we, you know, as a council and as ratepayers, that income should be going to you, and you know, I would be very keen to see that happens. I'll be watching, of course.
As a resident of Broxton, as a taxpayer of Broxton myself,
yeah.
And as someone who works in Beeston and has no escape from Beeston, absolutely. So we're talking 6 and 7-figure sums
over the 2 or 3 year period.
Yes. At the moment, we have zero income from that. But that's, well, we will pursue it. We can't guarantee what the outcome will be, but obviously we're not just going to walk away and say, have our land.
Quite right.
Right, I've got 2 questions for clarification. The first is, bearing in mind the uncertainty that has been talked about this evening of where we stand with NET, and the fact that we have proposals from Henry Boot presented since New Year. In terms of the implementation of that scheme, is this something we can expect to see implemented fairly quickly? That's really the first point. Is it going to happen, or are we just going to talk about it for 3 years and then will something happen? The second point is that it lacked any real context or acknowledgement that it was in a setting. And a lot might be done in that setting to improve it and to keep things going. In the 3-year interval, we have to wait until we're more certain about the tram. Now, this is perhaps something more for the borough than the developer, but what can be done to improve that place and make it an attractive place for people to come while all these works are going ahead? Those are my 2 questions.
In terms of implementation, the programme we're working to is for us to start works in July, August of this year. Now that will be dependent on us pre-letting half the space. The reason we do that is, one, financially to make it viable, and second, we don't want to build something for it to lay empty as well. So you're looking probably about a 12-month build period from then on, so you're looking for delivery about autumn 2014, in time for the tram opening, which I think is December 2014. The idea from our point of view is we don't want Beeston to be several building sites over the coming years. We want to try and tie our works in with net, so it's one building site and gets finished at the end of the day. In terms of its setting, our problem is that we've got B&M who have a very long lease, and we've got retailers on the square who've got long leases. The Argos block is constrained by net to a huge extent. So we've really only got that block in the middle to play with, if you like. And in my ideal world, we'd be knocking it down, starting again, and doing a much more efficient scheme. But everybody said, oh, it's only a refurb. Well, that's all we can do. You know, the funds are not available to clear everybody out. It is what it is. So it's the very best we can do with what we're having to deal with.
Why can't everybody knock it down to unit?
Well, I was just saying, do we have to have this what looks like really cash? It really does. Really.
And the problem is, people like B&M have got extremely long leases, not just a long lease, 50 years plus.
How on earth have they got expiry leases?
They bought it. There's very little we can do as leasehold. Basically, it was Sainsbury's when it started. When we bought it, it was a quick save. That got sold to Co-op, and then Co-op sold it to Morrison's. Morrison's never traded it and sold it to B&M. Now we can't stop them buying things like that. It's their money, their investment. But they're on the very long lease.
There are plenty of empty shops on the high road. Can't they move into one of those? I think there's going to be more empty shops soon.
If we look to close them down, we'd be having to compensate them millions of pounds, and we just can't afford it.
So they've lost Wilco and they're stuck with B&M.
The question is, did we really need to travel all this disruption? Did we really need it?
We've had that today.
But what about the rest? Get B&M promoted then, if you start with them.
Yeah, so our idea is to keep everything up to, well, from Birds to Nationwide.
Okay.
So that will stay as 3 flats above that. And then from Nationwide round to B&M, that will be demolished and replaced with new units. So it's basically expanding it back into the service yard and forward slightly.
So the Birds and the Nationwide, sorry,
will stay. So that will be reclad. Now they will be traded, so we can't do major work for those units. It's going to be quite minor while they're trading.
If you were to build a whole new thing, would they be happy to move in into a whole new thing?
They would, but they want huge compensation for not being able to trade that amount of years that we had to shut them down.
You've answered the first part of the question very well. Thank you for that. The second part was what can be done to make the square an attractive place people will want to come to and use in the meantime. And you told us what you can't do, what can be done. And this is a matter perhaps for Broxton as well as for yourselves.
Yeah, I mean, we looked at continental markets in the past, Chinese New Year, it's events like that really, set up as much as we can to get some life on there.
Sort of part, I'll directly answer your question in a minute, but I think part of the issue that the Borough Council faces is a bit like the Monopoly game cards, pay a £10 fine or take a chance. And we're expecting an application in from Henry Boot for works to the square. It will be very difficult to make it worse than it is. So, therefore, without wanting to preempt our planning committee's decision on the application that Henry Boot are expected to put in, it's unlikely to be worse than the present square. It's likely to be better. That at the moment is likely to be the only offer on the table. We have an option of either accepting that, depending on what modifications the planning committee may require or how the planning discussions go, or saying no, we're going to wait for something better to come along. That something better may come along, that something better may not come along. That's the dilemma. Meanwhile, with my estates hat on, the council's losing money on the square, Henry Boots are losing money on the square. Back to Simon Barton's comment, we have a duty as Broxton Borough Council is a multi-hatted beast, and part of our remit as landowners is to maximise the return that we have on the land that we have, not for our own profits, but for the benefit of the taxpayers and residents of Broxton. So I have a duty to secure the best value from the land that I can, not to watch it disappear and to watch shops emptying out. Obviously, the Broxton Borough Council as a planning authority will have a vision for the future of Beeston, and sometimes it's a question of marrying the two. Do you take what's on offer, or do you hope that something better will come along? And that's a decision that the planning committee will make. In terms of making Beeston more attractive, I'm also a board member of Beeston BID, the Business Improvement District, and the sort of things that we're trying to do, things like the Christmas light switch on, which attracts phenomenally large crowds, 20–25,000 people into the square. A lot of the events you can very much see, we measure footfall in Beeston, and when we run events you see the footfall surge, you see car parking income surge, you see the number of people in the town, surge. In conjunction with the tram, as you may be, we're not discussing the tram, but as you may be aware, it is quite possible that Chilwell Road will be closed for 12 months as part of the construction process for the tram. We're in active talks with the City Council to make sure that we get as much, can't get compensation from the City Council for it, but investment from the City Council in marketing Beeston, perhaps in running pop-up shops, in signing schemes and improving decoration and lighting, etc. But as you know, we can't subsidise individual businesses. But we are, both as a Beeston Bid Board and also as a Borough Council, absolutely, we don't want our own main shopping centre, our own main centre in which our offices are based, to decline. So we do want to make it more attractive, absolutely.
Lady back, please.
Addressing you as your multi-hatted beast of Broxton, the general consensus is that people don't like Stumpy. It adds nothing to the square. What can be done to get rid of Stumpy? Can you tell me here and now why we have to have the stump?
I'll chip in just one thing here. I've run a little campaign about it, not where it is. I think it's a good statue in a terrible, terrible place. So I just might show my interest. I do, yeah. It's got a very beautiful history to it when you actually look into it. And it's a long story, but it's worth it. Can we just have a little favour? I think I'll probably lose this one, but hands up if you like Stumpy. No, very good. And hands up if you would like to see him crushed into hardcore.
It's a non-issue.
What we're saying, I think he's in a very, very bad position. He does look forlorn in that place, but I'll pass it over to you.
All I can say is when we were refurbishing the high roads 2 years ago now, largely with external funding, largely with Tesco's money, and also with money, I think it was European money, with very little sort of public taxpayers' money going in. I had the option of moving Beeston Man, the beekeeper, and the quote, because he's a monolithic slab, I think is the expression, was £20,000. Because we had already spent all the European money, the Tesco's money, I had the choice of, do I seriously ask for £20,000 of taxpayers' money to move the beekeeper, or do I leave him? And we made the decision to leave him, because at that time we were already in the economic recession, and I can't really justify spending 20 persons council tax moving a statue. So I'm not a great fan of it either, Sheila. As it happens, just think it's a slimy, strange thing.
Why can't we do the Guy Fawkes thing and put it on one night and put it on?
Without injury, we need to encourage some kind of car to go into it, but that's a...
Can I intervene? I mean, I put my hand up that I like Stumpy. And it makes it more difficult because in response to somebody else's question, I'm deputy leader of the council, Pat Lally, local councillor for this ward, actually. So I've come along to listen and to hear what has said. I mean, I haven't called a meeting, Steve's called a meeting, Beestonian I've called a meeting. I think that the Stumpy was a reason designed, apparently it was before my time as a councillor, but it was designed to be in the middle of a lake, and I'm sure it would have been a beautiful feature just there. It is slightly out of place, Beeston Square, except when it rains heavily. I'm afraid, I hope what you're getting out of this, somebody said, I think, unfortunately, you know, why aren't council doing something about this? We're not actually in a fascist state or a severely communist state where the council can just do whatever it pleases. I mean, you've heard already, you know, Henry Boot have got an 80-year lease, is it, on the square at the minute? We are the landlords, but they are in possession of the square for the next 80 years, and this is why they put plans in for the square. As landowners, we can comment to a degree on what they want to do with the square, but we can't control what they do. They put it into the planners use planning law to decide what can and cannot happen and what should and shouldn't happen. They are constrained by the fact that B&M have got a 50-year lease on one of the major units in there. And you know, B&M to move out want millions of pounds. It was the same with Wilco's. They walked away with a considerable amount of money because they fixed a date for when they were going to move out. They fixed a date and there's a clock running and there's certain timelines with compensation as well. So there's lots of things involved. We talked about Net. Net have got a legal right to take possession of the land that they've taken. That's what the Transport and Works Act has given them. They've got a legal right to take possession of all that area until they have completed construction. Now there is question marks over it at the minute because we can't say, well, this is what can be left, because we're trying to negotiate with Net, with the bus companies, with the county council, on getting a suitable transport interchange for the future of Beeston, and one that will deal with future traffic conditions as well. I mean, Net, it could see many, many more buses running into Beeston. In fact, instead of running into town, they'll run into the tram stops. This is why Bartons are involved in the whole scheme. They're part of the Net group. Because they'll be looking... Did you say Trent Bartons? Sorry, Trent.
Nothing to do with us.
Right, no longer. You did start it off.
No, they bought that bit.
They bought that bit, yes. So they've got thoughts about what the interchanges look like as well. So it is fluid at the minute, the plans over the interchange, because we want to see it right, but we can't say this is how we want it and this is how it will be. So we are in a fluid situation, unfortunately, at this minute. And it's good to listen to your views and about we would love to increase the public realm, but at the minute, you know, Henry Boot have the leasehold of the square. And I don't think it's too bad. We have some great events in the middle of Beeston at the minute, and let's see whether we can develop that when we do get access to the land again. But we've always got to keep an eye as a council towards maximising the benefit for the residents of the area. And also, as you well know, our budgets are shrinking year on year. We've seen a 25% decrease over the last 2 years, and now we're looking at another 20% decrease over the next 2 years. So you know, we don't sit in council meetings thinking, oh, this is wonderful, what are we going to do with all this money? We're thinking constantly of where are we going to save money, where are we going to gain money? You asked the question quite rightly about incomes and so we are always on the lookout for where we can get income from, and we will do our best on behalf of residents to actually get what Broxton are entitled to. But please don't try and be unfair on councillors. We've got a very difficult job to actually try and manage all this, when in fact we are negotiating with a lot of people. We're not in a position to say this is what will happen. But we do go along and say this is what we would like to see, and we do try and use the influence that we've got to get the best for residents of Broxton. Thank you.
Just out of interest, what was the payoff to Wilco's in the end?
I've no idea. That's between Wilco's and that's between Wilco's and the tram.
But it is, they will get payoff as such.
It's between Wilco's and the tram. That was private negotiations that we tried to get involved in, and tried to say, come on, and Henry, we were very, very good in trying to provide another unit for Wilco's, but Wilco's did not sign the contract at the end of the day.
Would you like to say anything about that, actually, James? I know about a lot of people.
No, James and I made. I mean, I talked to members of the staff in Wilco's, and I'm sure you all did. You talked to members of the staff. 2 weeks before Christmas, they believed they were moving. A week before Christmas, they were told it was shutting.
Yeah, I mean, we got to detailed heads of term stage. I think we had an operational board approval from Wilco's. They couldn't get the family board approval. That's quite far down. We got our board approval to do it. Plans were there.
I think it's been one of the things that's been hardest is reading, sort of seeing articles, you know, why didn't Broxtowe stop Wilco's closing? Why didn't Henry Boot stop Wilco's closing? I think it's fair to say Wilco's chose to close Wilco's.
I think that's a conclusion. I led the campaign at the time, and at the time trying to look for who exactly was responsible. It does seem that Wilco's didn't take the money, basically. I realised to find out myself how much money that was, but I think that's going to be extremely hard to...
You can assume it was worthwhile.
I've heard it's upwards of 7 figures, basically.
Please, we all have to tread very carefully. This is commercial business between Wilco's and the tram.
Can I interject this point? It's a shrinking world we've got, and due to the internet and things like that, people are shopping online now. Hence the demise of the shop on the high street. In Beeston itself, the centre of Beeston is totally moving now from Broadgate. I can't see people coming into Beeston to shop and walking all the way along Broadgate. You've got to have some attraction of some sort to drag people into Beeston, or it will be just a passing through point. They'll look at it and see the demolitions, half-finished shops, parts of the Beeston that just look half demolished, or possibly it could be repainted. Or at the end of the day, it's a shrinking world, as I say, and people are shopping online. There is not now the amount of shops required for people to come into Beeston and to do the shopping. We've got some lovely shopping centres, Tesco, Sainsbury's, B&M. But at the end of the day, that little shop that used to do all that work that they're doing is going down and down and down. And it's just the way the world changes. We've got to make Beeston look attractive for people to come in. But I'm adamant that when this original idea was thought of, the internet was never even considered. It's 20 years since somebody said, oh, it'd be nice to have a tram. But you can't foresee what happened. And at the end of the day, this is what we're finished with. An era that's demolished and will look demolished for a long time, in my opinion. And you've got to get involved and do something to make it attractive, to get people to come in. We're not going to change it in any other way except by doing that, making it attractive and making it a place to stop. As you suggested, film, skating rinks, markets, anything to bring people in.
But this is a good point, actually. We've had seen this week two big we've seen Blockbuster go down, we've seen H&B go down, neither of them have seen Beeston, but there does seem to be a massive, the high street is in many ways changing massively, and it does seem that the plan we have here, especially to the south of the square at the moment, where the fire station is, it does seem to be based on the idea that it would be retail, mainly retail. Would that be what the council are actually thinking of doing to those areas? Would it be solely available for retail? And would there be, with if that, we've also got a big issue with obviously the green belt is a big issue around here, and building on the green belt. Could this be used for housing or for a non-retail?
Some of the uses that are, I mean obviously there's not a formal planning brief at this stage, but some of the uses that are being considered for it include retail. and include potentially a hotel. I'm not saying that's what will happen, but the chances are that retail will know, as we've said, we are in a changing world. Retail is not likely to support a large, comprehensive development of that site, and it may well be that there's a significant amount of residential, possibly leisure usage, possibly some kind of hotel. I think when I said earlier about pay a £10 fine or take a chance, and I think I don't want to see Beeston as a building site for many years, and I think there's a consensus. I think there are two views. I think on Henry Booth's sort of proposal. One is that it's absolutely better than nothing and it's a significant improvement. The other one is it's short on dreams and aspiration. And I think whatever happens, we don't want that site to have nothing done to it for several years. And that's one of the dilemmas that planners will have to sort of weigh up when considering the development that is on offer. As soon as we have the fire station site handed back to us, then subject to getting the capital money to actually do it, the Borough Council wants to demolish the fire station rather than leave it as a kind of waterlogged vandalised eyesore, which is what it is at the moment. I can't guarantee how long it will be before that site's redeveloped, but I certainly don't want to see the fire station sitting there as a very sorry site, as a sort of entry into Beeston. The worst comes to the worst, we'll probably try and use it as some kind of temporary car park, rather than just purely unused, purely derelict.
Yeah, that gentleman is absolutely right, actually. He made, the point I started off on really is that you've got to get people into these to be a big attraction. And whether or not it's retail, I don't know, times change, things move. HS2's coming, things change.
The lady over there,
what's it going to do to encourage the people that the retailers are in Beeston at the moment to stay? Because I've heard today that there's a very good butcher's that is moving out.
He's retired.
I'm disappointed, and I do know that property is up for lease, but the rent has been considerably increased. Who controls the rent of the properties in Beeston, and should we not be encouraging business in by reducing the rents to encourage business in and not increasing it where people can't afford to move in?
The council owns none of the properties in
so who
Parliament
controls the rent?
There'll be a variety of private landowners.
Whoever owns the building.
But you've obviously got no control over them putting the rents up, so you have no control over what happens in Beeston anyway then.
No. We only have very limited control. Through planning we can designate certain uses for buildings. We can't designate who uses those buildings. So for example, if it's designated as retail, I know when Tesco's application was in, it was controversial and people said, why can't we have Marks and Spencer's, why can't we have Waitrose? The answer is it's the same planning permission that's granted. So you don't grant permission to a retailer, you grant permission for a land use. And you have no control over which retailer takes advantage of that land use. So there are some controls through the planning process. Ironically, government's looking at, and I can see the logic for it, I'm not allowed to be political because I'm an officer of the council, but I can see a logic in reducing controls over planning because it frees up private enterprise to do its own thing. And on the one hand, that is perceived as a good thing, but on the other hand, it can be perceived as a lack of control. And you can't free the private sector to do its own thing and have state control at the same time.
But you're not surely there's but you know nobody's going to want to come because there's nothing there, everything's closing. So where's the inclusion to come into? We live locally, we've lived in Beeston for quite a few years, and you just don't feel encouraged to want to come into Beeston anymore because every time you walk down, there's another shop shut.
The vacancy rate in Beeston is actually significantly below the national average.
I'm here again, and I spend a lot of my time on this subject and trying to work this out. And please, give us the magic solution. We've got town centre managers who try and work on this. And we've got a very successful business improvement district within Beeston, which tries and makes Beeston an attractive shopping centre. And Beeston, we should be quite proud of Beeston. Go up to Kirkby and Ashfield and see what those sort of town centres have gone. They are gone, they've been finished.
They're shut town centre.
They're shuttered out.
Shut town centre, absolutely looks Beeston.
Yeah.
It's 100%, it's 20 times better.
I mentioned Kirkby.
Some town.
Yeah. So there are some market towns that do very, very well because they have interesting shops, and they have a tremendously wide catchment area. We're very close to Nottingham, which is a great draw for shoppers, in fact, and we'd love to draw the shoppers into Beeston.
We never used to have
But we do have schemes to try and promote businesses within Beeston, but I must not only just say Beeston, but the other town centres as
few
well.
more questions, that's right, so a few more. I think I'll do your next first, again, just so we can hand yours up there.
I do appreciate the constraints that the council is working in, and I think the council does a good job. Having said that, the council has a real leadership role in setting vision for Beeston and obviously the whole of the borough. I mean, I've lived in Beeston now for, I think, about 12 years. You know, I really like living in Beeston. I think it's a fantastic place to live, and I think the town centre could be fantastic. It could be vibrant. It could be, you know, diverse in terms of, you know, the retail and just the general offer that there could be. At the moment, I'm not sensing any real ambition from some of the parties that we've got here. And Steve spoke really well at the start around ambition, and obviously net is a real opportunity. Can the council give us some assurance that they will relook at the master plan for Beeston Town Centre? Because I don't see how we're going to attract developers to Beeston if we're not clear as to, in terms of what we want to achieve. Yes, there's problems in terms of agreeing specific bits of land, but overall, you know, we must have a sense of what we want Beeston to be, and we need to articulate that and attract developers on that basis. There are other towns and cities in the country who are, you know, they're trying to defeat the recession by actually attracting investors. I know it's challenging, but we've got to be ambitious to Beeston.
Absolutely, absolutely, Heather. The Borough Council, as are all the councils around here, are charged with producing the core strategy, and we've got a line core strategy for the whole of Greater Nottingham. This is a document which is going to run right up to 2028 and beyond, according to instructions, and it's going to, the controversial part of it is one policy out of 18, and the controversial part is where are we going to put houses in Greenbelt, and that's the one that's got all the attention. The other 17 policies are actually very interesting, and they do include all these things. We've got to have, as you say, we must have a strategy, we must have a local plan, and we must have an ambition. So Beeston and Broxtowe is going to get a core strategy, going to get a strategy, hopefully an ambitious one. The Greater Nottingham area is going to get an ambitious core strategy. You know, I mean, Greater Nottingham is amongst the 8 core cities in the UK. We've left Derby and Leicester standing in most things. Although I will agree that Derby has a better centre at the moment with its new shopping centre, which Nottingham lacks. We've had a problem with that. But in terms of economics and everything, we are in the middle of a very, very big booming area. And once the economic upturn comes, one of the pundits said, the biggest boom area in the UK is going to be between University of Nottingham, Rolls-Royce and Derby. Where do we sit here? Slap bang in the middle of that, and we should be using that, we should be moving on that.
Yeah, I was going to say very similar to what the lady said, because I agree, I think it's all about passion and vision, and I was delighted what you started with, because to me, it's like, are we half full or half empty? And I think if you start with passion and vision, that is communicated, and as people who probably live and work in Beeston, I love living here, I lived here for 20 odd years, love living in Beeston. I would love to see, it's got great potential, we've got a diverse community, so much could happen. And I think maybe what's being picked up again, I think the gentleman said behind me, where's the kind of big leadership to make us feel passionate and positive? How can we play a part? We're all up for that, I expect. And I think that's what I feel is a slightly lacking of. I completely understand what you're saying about all the things you're having to struggle with, and we completely appreciate that. But it feels like a real lack of vision and passion to how we can move forward and sit as half full and half empty. I'm hearing a lot of we can't, we won't, rather than, well, let's try, we will, kind of take this ball by the horns.
Right, well, I mean, as a lot of people know here, I mean, I've been very pro-tram. I've supported the tram all the way through because I believe that that is a conduit for investment along this corridor. And I believe we've got to look beyond 2015, 2014 when it opens, 2015 when it's fully functional. And that's where our plan should be. Yes, we've got to make sure Beeston in the interim period doesn't die. We've got to make sure it is economic, it is good and it's increasing. But the real thrust is going to come somewhere, hopefully, Christmas 2014, when Father Christmas arrives on a tram in a new Beeston Square. That's what I want to see. That's what I want to see you get in order, James.
Can I just ask a question, please? You're on about the shops and how they should be and all that. Now, I have heard you say tonight, and I've read this, you're on about shutting Chilwell Road, aren't you?
We're not
Pardon?
We're not.
We're not.
It's the Nottingham City Council.
Well, whoever's going to shut it,
Yeah.
right, I mean, I think really, I don't blame any route or the council probably, but this should have been sorted out with this tram months or years ago, so you knew where they were going.
Yeah.
But what's these shops going to do until I
Right.
You're
sorry. Right, a few points which I think we've got to really thump home with about this tram enclosure at Chilwell Road. I mean, it's not something we can duck. It's a massive thing. Firstly, shutting it for a year, I don't see that as acceptable. I think we've got to bring that period down. One way of bringing that down is the operating hours for the work are too restricted, I think. They should say you can work every hour of daylight between the clocks going forward in March and the clocks going back in October. Get on with it. Get the thing done. Get it, as quick as possible. The closure. There are various things that we've got to look at this closure. Minimise the time it's closed for. Maximise the accessibility of Chilwell Road. A free bus all the way through Beeston, circulating through Beeston into Chilwell Road, penetrating there. A compensation package for the shopkeepers, which was negotiated several years ago. It was started the negotiation, and the first figures put out were 80% of your proved losses compensated for financially by the tram. Tram just pay it. And improved losses from the previous corresponding course of the year before. They did that in nice and green. Not all the money was actually claimed. But beyond that, I think they should also go, once it's all finished, the scheme also applies. Because as trade picks back up again, as it will do, when it picks back up again, that's compensated. So the traders must be protected. That's absolutely essential.
I can see what you're saying there, but you're the shopkeeper, Steve.
Yeah.
You want something delivered. How's it going to get?
Right, well, there is a method. There is a means and method. They're taking on, and this has all been negotiated and thrown forward. John's been on the team. They're going to have a receiving area on the edge of there where your lorry comes to. From there, there's a logistics firm. We're going to sort out how to get it to your shop, and it will happen. There will be access maintained at all times to shops, so deliveries will not be a problem. Should not be a problem.
I accept that, and that sounds a good idea, but just putting this in so that you understand. You have a delivery, who's going to sign for it? Are they going to get it? Are they going to be sent to the country where it comes from? We haven't had a delivery. Joe Bob's up there signed for it.
We've highlighted.
I'm sure you're going to have logistical
problems. There are issues which we've highlighted to the City Council and to tram members that contract it. For example, controlled drugs deliveries to pharmacies, for example. Obviously, delicate goods that may be delivered to the shipment depot and then arrive fragile. There's a lot of complications that they've got to look into and consider. But I guess we're kind of straight.
We're getting a bit off topic here. So if we can take any more questions, while I've got the title. That's okay.
Can I bring it back to the Henry Boot proposal for the square? Obviously, I went down to the exhibition that you held for the day in the library, and there were quite a number of people there, which showed, as the lady said earlier, about the passion that we've got for our centre here. We were asked to fill in questionnaires giving you feedback on that. I have to say, what I heard verbally at the time was particularly negative from everybody. I'd like to ask you about that feedback and to ask you what, if anything, you are going to change from the feedback that you were given it was meant to be a public consultation.
Yeah, it was. A very good turnout, 230 people turned out. The main issues, well, I'll answer another question first. A lot of the traffic that I read on Matt's website was that some people didn't get the chance to come on the day. So what we're going to do is when we put the application in, we're going to display it in the Old Ashley Peak unit, Unit 10. So you'll have all the signboards in there, the website to look at. So as part of the consultation process the council will do for the planning, everybody again will get to comment. It'll be displayed in the square while ever that application runs. Going back to the changes, there is some changes going to be done to the cladding elements. Some people weren't happy with the checkerboard style that we've done, so that's going to change. There's some hard landscaping changes proposed as well. But we've got a sheet which our planning consultants put together with all the responses, the likes, what people didn't like. As part of the plan application, we tried to answer each one of those. I mean, some of them we can't control, things like B&M. A lot of people wanted us to move Argos and get rid of that whole block so that they could see views of the church. Well, Argos have got a lease, we can't get rid of them, you know, we've got to work with them. So yeah, we have responded to it. There will be changes different to what you saw with that presentation.
And I think the thing for me that I found particularly disappointing was that we still seem to have behind it all 1960s square box and actually to have roofs that were sloped. You know,
it's really subjective. If you put a pitch roof on it, the structure gets very expensive to build, and height, you start towering sort of 2.5, 3 stories up, and a lot of people on a domestic scale. We've tried to sort of strike a balance really. I mean, the lady said about passion and ambition. The place, whatever you did, including our site and down to the fire station, what we're doing to the square of the bit that's tenanted would roughly be the same, whatever you did. You know, you've got to create a link to the square, you've got to create that link from the tram stops into the square and create the circuit onto High Road and round. The place to do your passionate dream in architecture is on the bus station and fire station side. Blank canvas. We've put forward several ideas in the past, I'm more than prepared to revisit those. Things like a cinema, we're doing a cinema in Daventry, which is probably a lesser demographic than Beeston. You know, it's not out of the question, but unfortunately you've got to have some critical mass to go with that, because you have to pay them to come.
Can I tell you, James, we already do have a cinema that's active in the area, at Chilwell, and it's, you know, they run periodically on Friday, ever so good. There's a big active audience.
Is there a silent
yes, I'd like to be bringing the film festival here at the end of February.
Hit the ground running.
Can I just ask as well, as a vocal point for Beeston Square, if we're going to be moving these sculptures or somebody just puts a bottle in there, can we please have a clock with coat on? It's like on the balance more possible. The first thing I'm not for, do we have a clock?
It's a management nightmare. We're based in Sheffield. People who look after it day to day.
You not have clocks in Sheffield? I know you're up north.
No, we have watches. The people who look after it in Nottingham, when that clock was working, if it was a minute late, we'd get literally 50 phone calls. So, in the end, we fitted people.
Technology's moved on.
Sorry?
The time's moved on.
No, technology's moved on. The problem trying to get the clock and
it's always been wrong. It's a management nightmare, it's spending more on it than it's worth.
We offer you that challenge.
Keep maintaining, Sheila.
I will.
Put Beeston Express underneath it, there you are.
The point being made is, if it don't work, take it down out the road.
Well, that's what
in an eyesore.
Will you get proposed?
The time is clocked.
Well, is there
We're not proposing to put it back, we're just a brand new.
Probably good idea.
Your budgets.
I'd like to echo many of the comments that have been made. I understand all the difficulties there are, and I appreciate more than I knew about now. What would be very encouraging, I think, in spite of the downturn and all the problems, is to see a master plan. You said in 2010 one was about to be launched and then it was done because things went.
It was a big problem.
I think for the denizens of Beeston to see a master plan and feed into it would be very healthy, because we would know then that the people who are concerned with our environment are thinking about the things that we believe are important. And if we have an input to that, then I think everybody would be much happier. At the moment, I think people bemused or fairly fed up. There's no...
Right. We are about to engage on a consultation with the entire all the residents of Broxton over the core strategy. Part of the legal process, unfortunately, a lot of the consultation, it is very long and it is quite complex, a lot of it, and some of it's not really relevant to you in particular, but I would really encourage people to engage in that process, because that is our master plan, our view for the borough, till 2028 and beyond. So basically for our lifetime, that's what it is. And this is all happening. This is all happening over the next, I think it's the next 3 or 4 months we'll be putting this out. And it's going to public examination. Will be a big public examination over it all, which we're hoping to carry out in the spring summer, with adoption by the autumn. So that I think is an absolutely critical piece of development for us all.
Eric, I really don't want the future Beeston being hidden away in a really big, complicated document. I'd like to see you consult on the future of Beeston and the town centre and its surroundings. There has been, as you say, there was a plan, Beeston Town Centre plan, quite a significant amount of work was done on that by actually a multi-party group at Broxton. And indeed, quite a lot of money, I believe, was spent on consultants who sat in the background, a great amount of money. I can't remember the £130,000 spent on developing that plan. Now, obviously, Henry Boot were part of that process, and we're not the preferred developer, I don't think, for the whole thing, but ultimately became the preferred developer, ultimately became it. And then, so I'd really like to know what happened, why that stopped, because we all had the vision at that time, and actually the lady with the passion, she'd become a councillor, that'd be great to see some of that passion in the town hall. I think that what happened with that plan, why was it stopped? Was it, I'm sure that when it was there, that it was a plan that included little bits taken off because we knew the tram might come one day, sadly. So what happened to it? Why did it not get proceeded with? You can still continue with that vision, even if it takes a while to get the developers in there. What we're faced with now, sadly, possibly sadly, is that we have half a development with one concept. We've got another possible development, we know not when, that might be with another developer, depending on who wins the bidding process, and also that could look different. So we get a disparate Beeston Town Centre, not with any vision and focus, all because of this process. So can you explain why we've got to that, please? And whether we can jump back on that picture.
I've got 3 words, Eric. Worldwide recession.
I don't believe it.
Oh.
You want to ask your own colleagues, Eric? They were involved in it all.
It was stopped because the tram wanted more land than it said originally. That's the reason why.
Maybe you should ask your own colleagues who were involved in it.
Sorry, Eric, you tried to make political points.
I'm not.
Yeah, you meant to make a political point.
If you look at what's happening at King's Cross at the moment, they're in the same recession that we're in.
Yeah.
They're building 27 miles of new roads and putting up skyscrapers left, right and centre, and everything's happening. Now, I don't know about the politics, but clearly that is happening in the same fiscal context that we're talking about here. So
can I just ask my question answered? Are we going to get 2 separate, disparate developments based on the fact that we've got to go ahead now with renewing?
I would love to be involved in everything, the bus station, fire station, the former car park. The reason it broke down last, there's been a lot of misinformation about, basically it looked as though we were trying to get 4 years initially and then extend that to 6 years, and I can understand why people think that's ridiculous, 6 years to get development. What we were saying was, with the recession when it hit, it was so uncertain that we were saying we want a 4-year period, which is pretty standard, sort of a year to get your planning sorted, 18 months to get your pre-lets in place, and 18 months to build it, worst case scenario. We were saying at the end of that 4-year period, it needs to be an independent assessment. If we've done everything we could do to get that development off the ground, but for whatever reason not happened, which is not our fault and not our making, then we should be allowed under extension to carry on. So that's purely market forces. Broxton's consultant thought that wasn't sort of fit, and I think recommended it be turned down. Now, advisors disagree all the time. I've said at the beginning, we didn't fall out as the council and developer. Our advisors had a difference of opinion. We followed ours, they followed theirs. I'm prepared to get back around the table and start fresh.
Good.
That's what we need. Yeah. If we were a private company, then we could make a commercial decision to accept offers that are on the table. Those offers don't have to be subject to scrutiny. But as a public body, they have to be subject to scrutiny. We have to take professional advice. I'm not a property developer. I'm a civil engineer. I do a reinforced concrete bridge, but I'm not a developer. So we have to take professional advice. Those advisors have to certify that the development that's put forward represents best value to the taxpayers of Broxton. And with the terms that were on the table at the time, they weren't able to recommend to us that represented best value. Therefore, we felt that we couldn't proceed on the basis of that advice. Obviously, it's the double-edged sword again, because in some ways the Borough Council is kind of inhibited by being a council rather than a private organisation. But on the other hand, we're accountable to you, to me actually as well, as a resident, not just to the board of shareholders. So it can make it, a marriage between a developer and a council is quite a difficult thing. I guess it's rarely a smooth process. And rightly so, because if I said to James, I tell you what, after the meeting tonight, we're going to do a deal. I know one or two individuals in this room that would want to know about that deal and what the terms were and why it was agreed and why we didn't go to somebody else and why we didn't get something else and why we didn't get more public realm, etc., etc. So we are accountable, and unfortunately accountability, which is a good thing, sometimes creates difficulties.
Right, we've got about 15 minutes left, so I'll take some fairly quick questions. I think you've been waiting.
I've just got one comment. I'm sure the decline of shops in high streets is a problem everybody's got everywhere. But something I've heard several people say over the last year, probably more in the summer, that the Broadgate, the strip running through from the square to the university, it's become a nice place to people like to go there to meet their friends for a coffee or a meal or something. And it's mainly on a Saturday, it's got a quite different sort of quite a thriving atmosphere really. That's not really about shopping, that's about a sort of cafe culture thing. And it might be worth thinking about that it doesn't have to, if shopping's in decline, you've also got the kind of cafe culture, going and meeting friends, that kind of thing. That might attract a different sort of shop that, for that kind of clientele. But that seems to actually be
also application for this will include sort of cafe-type uses and restaurants and things like that.
That in itself is part of the controversy sometimes, because we've had a couple of planning applications before us recently for converting retail units into bars, bars come restaurants, and it's drawn objections that it's a loss of retail. But as another gentleman mentioned, the reality is at the moment there is a recession. People are using out-of-town shopping centres to a degree. People are using online. People are using the supermarkets. We're not going to recreate the high street of the 1950s, and it may be that we have to accept that there will be some decline in retailing and some replacement of alternatives. I was last in Beeston in a cafe on Broadgate on Saturday.
So, something I've always wondered about, consider, I don't know if you've ever been to Headingley in Leeds, but I mean there, anywhere, any sort of high street like that that's anywhere near the university, it's just heaving with students on there, on the weeknight. That probably isn't something that is that desirable. But is there some particular reason why more students don't come out to Beeston?
Traditionally,
they're going to town. You've got a huge market.
I've no idea, but traditionally, it's the postgraduates and many overseas students that reside in Beeston, and the undergraduates seem to reside in Lenton. I have no idea why, but you try telling a student that you can get good accommodation in Beeston, and they say, well, I want to live in Lenton. So, that's that one. But you're dead right, because our planning policy actually excludes, we've had a couple of difficult decisions to make, where we've had applications for cafes. And our planning policy would actually say we had to reject them because it's putting too many cafes into the area. We've debated it in some length and decided your points are exactly valid and exactly those points, and we've approved them for that reason. Not only these, but also Stapleford, we've got to say.
Because it like West Bridgeford's main drag, that really, it looks like a sort of continental, nice.
I think that's what we need for the tram. Especially when we've got the tram, that's what we need.
Okay,
Well, the gentleman stole my thunder a little bit. You actually mentioned that there's been applications for bars, restaurants.
Yeah.
Have they been turned down?
No.
No, they were passed.
Right. because I think the main point is if we look at a similar situation in West Bridgford, that's a lot of bars, restaurants have evolved in that area, and it's improved the area, and it's a thriving area at the moment for retail as well. And I think the same, if we looked at that sort of similar situation for
Please go out
Beeston.
for a meal in Beeston. I mean, we've got a Chinese restaurant on Broadgate there that is brilliant, it's bamboo, but you know they're suffering from lack of trade at the minute. Where do people from Beeston go to eat? Please stay in Beeston.
And anyone can buy me a drink and what you like now.
I'm Beeston 4 months ago from Manchester, where we are having a tram extension as well. We're not suffering any of these problems. I mean, granted the tram line is going on the existing train line, either close to the elements of a called Disbury, which is kind of the kin slash of Beeston and West Bridgford. Close to university, we maximise the university because all those students want to stay in a big city, not in proposing to be a global university. But Beeston is dead in evenings. I have to go into town and go right out into the country if I want to take my little one out. And it's one of the most disappointing things about moving here. I thought being close to university would be a lot more on offer. And it's just depressing because more and more places are closing all the time. I'm staying in Beeston purely because my little girl is very happy at school, but I've got the opportunity to return to Manchester in long term. It's just a failure. I don't know, talk to Manchester City Council, work out how they did it, because there's no recession in Didsbury or Chorlton, and they are on the end of the tram line.
Well, you're talking to the person here. I mean, I came from Chorlton, which is right next to where you are in Manchester, and when I left there, it was dire. I mean, our house got broken into 3 times in a month, and they just went in with a shovel in the day. It was so bad. Then came the tram, fantastic development, and now it's been extended to Chorlton and onto Didsbury. And it's just tentacles of development. It's a lovely place now.
Okay, we're coming slightly off topic here with the tram. Can gentlemen there?
Yeah. Is there any real work that's going back?
And from what I know, after leading the campaign, they took the money and ran, basically. I think that's the best way to put it.
I mean, that seems to be the kind of business that we...
They've actually announced recently, I put it on the website, and they sent me an email when I asked them about this, I think the post actually on this one, but they aren't actually developing anything above the M25, so no. It's gone, basically. I was talking to the staff there as well, who obviously I can't say too much about them, because they're holding on to my jobs by a fine hair there. They're not very happy. They've been treated very, very badly, and they've been basically told don't be expected to come back to these. So they're not longing to Arnold, to the city centre. But I mean, it's the same thing. Once they go, also so we'll fill that vacuum. So I can't see them coming back. I think in terms of the, I'm not too sure about in terms of the compensation agreement with NET as well means that they have to stay away to get paid for them. So no, I think lost them.
Really?
I'm afraid so. I'm a total breaking bad news.
They're not obliged to stay away, but they might find it commercially advantageous to stay away. 2 years.
Picture.
Are you going to have a strategy to take us forward from where we are at 10 to 9 on 17th of January 2013?
Applications tomorrow morning.
Yeah, the clarification will go shortly. I've already written a letter to the
So it is the same as tomorrow morning?
Sorry?
So it is not the same as tomorrow morning?
Well, sorry, tomorrow morning. Doing tomorrow. Snow.
Will it be tomorrow, will it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, one more question, please. That's all right.
Just very quickly, why you need Bell Capel to bring this application forward like at this moment in time? Why couldn't you just sit on your hands, given what the groundswell of resistance was a sort of master plan? Could have been, and thought, well, let's see if we can make a better fist of it, rather than this sort of lame, or applies to you also apply at the moment. This is borrowing it for another.
We're not doing anything that will stymie what could happen in the bus station if it's not us, if it's another developer. And we've got to protect the asset values, continue to go down and down. There are a couple of
only
leases.
because you know, apart from not being renewing leases perhaps, letting people go, but it naturally runs itself down.
Well, we've offered those units free. All those vacant units are free, and you still can't get more in.
Can I answer that question, please? So you're saying that the application will come in for refurbish or whatever.
Yeah.
Does that preclude, therefore, any further development you may want to do when the other site comes available? You might want to do it as a big
No, it can be tagged on. We've not
So
done anything
you're not
else like that.
you're not saying that once you've done this, the money's spent, you can't do any more?
No.
I think James, you keep saying another developer. I'm hoping we're all working with you, because come the tram completion and when everything is sorted and and we know what's back in ownership of the council. I am optimistic. I am a glass half full person. Let's see what we can develop Beeston into, because I think the potential is absolutely amazing for this area. If we're progressive, let's not be too conservative with a small c. Let's try and see the future and see the benefit for us and for our children and for other residents and others.
Just one last point, really. I think the rock setting in Beeston about 30 years ago. It's now the Tesco site. It was closed down. It was derelict. It was left derelict year upon year upon year. We just get that space and we get all this. I think the rock setting 30 years ago.
I don't know.